Do you have a personal philosophy?
Yes, I got a lot of personal philosophy.
What's the one for you? Even before you were a coach, when you were playing ball, did it evolve? Where did it come from? Like, what's your mantra? What is it every day?
Well, number one is work on your game. That's an easy question. You set me up for that one. So work on your game. But even I have a solo show that I put out, and I did a series called the 12 Work on Your Game Commandments. And I don't even remember all 12 off the top of my head, but I laid those out, and I'm on the record with those because that's letting people know what work on your game is all about. And I created work on your game. So those things apply in business the same way they apply personally. You want me to share a couple of them with you?
Yeah, it'd be great, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of them is these are not in any particular order, but one of them is the right vehicle. The right vehicle means you have to choose the right tool with which you want to get yourself where you want to go. So, for example, some people might start a podcast and their podcast pops off, and that's how they achieve all the things they want to achieve. But somebody else, a podcast is not the right thing for them. They might need to have a blog. Somebody else might need to be a car salesman. Somebody else might need to work in finance. Someone else might need to be an agent or a coach. So you got to choose the right vehicle. Before I played basketball, I played baseball for several years, but I wasn't really that good at baseball. And had I not realized that and picked a different vehicle, then we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now, because I wouldn't have the basketball professional athlete credibility to go behind my name. So you got to choose the right vehicle. Another one is a game. And game just means ability to perform. So that's connected to the right vehicles. If you have no game, if you don't have the ability to actually perform and produce a result, then you can never get the rewards. And if you're not collecting rewards and producing results and performing, then nobody really cares who you are and what you're doing or what you want to do. Because especially in Western society, we judge people based on their performance, the results, and the rewards that they get. So game is one of the most important things that you got to have in whatever space you choose to get into. And that's what it connects to, that whole work on your game thing. Good thing about working on your game is that it's not limited to sports. It started in sports, but it's not limited to sports.
So on your website, you say, I believe it was on your website, you say about making more money with systems and strategy. Is it that simple? Is it as simple as systems and strategy?
Yes, it is. Because let's just think about what systems and strategy are, Mark. So strategy is simply a plan of action. All right, what are you going to do? Where are you going to do it? Who are you going to do it with? Why are you going to do it? And how are you going to do it? So it's a lot of pieces to go into strategy. So strategy could you could write a whole manual just on a strategy, period. So it is that simple, but by simple, it can be very complex, right? If you actually dig into what somebody is saying when they say strategy. And then a system rather, is the mechanism that allows you to execute a strategy over and over and over again. So if you look at a company like McDonald's, if you order a Big Mac at the McDonald's in Cincinnati, and I'd order a Big Mac at the McDonald's in Miami, and nobody knew which one came from which McDonald's, nobody could tell the difference, because they're going to come out exactly the same. And it's not because the people in Cincy and the people in Miami are communicating with each other. It's because McDonald's has such a tight system that you can put anybody in there and the burgers will come out the same way. You had to try to mess it up. That's what a great system looks like, is that you can produce the result over and over and over again to where it becomes predictable. And when something's predictable, people are willing to pay you for it. So that's how it connects to making money.
So go deeper in this conversation. Here's something that happened when you said this. So I agree. I think it probably applies for vehicles. If you go buy a Mercedes in Cincy, or you buy a Mercedes in Miami, if you want to buy an E-Class, you would expect it to drive the same, have the same warranty, made the same way. But then I thought about the elite performers and the ones that win awards. They worked within the system, but then they did it better. How do you do that? Like, how does that, every once in a while, you know how you might go to a gym or go to a restaurant and they just do it better, even though it's this corporate approach. It could be a Mercedes-Benz dealership that their service is just top notch. How do they do it better? Maybe we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, because maybe that's compounding on top of the system and strategy. But what happens there when even in a system, someone just does it better?
Great question. So there are two other pieces here. So when it comes to what we do, coaching and work on your game, you got the strategy and the systems. Those are steps 2 and 3. Step 1 is mindset. Step 4 is accountability. So mindset, strategy, systems, accountability. And the answer to your question, it starts and it ends with mindset. It's the way that you're thinking about the situation. So for those performers who perform they're following the same system as everybody else, but they're producing more results, or the company or the person within the company. Let's say a salesperson at Mercedes, they're just selling more cars than everybody. Why are they selling more than everybody? You all selling the same cars. You all got the same deals. You got the same leeway to make deals. How is this one person making more sales than everybody else? It starts with the mindset. It starts with the way that the person is looking at and thinking about what they're doing. Because the 3-step process to any achievement in life, Mark, is be, do, have, in that order. Being is the mindset and the way that you're showing up. Doing is the activities, the actions. This is the thing most people focus on most of their lives, is the doing. And then the having is the result, the outcomes, the accomplishments and the goals and the money and all of that stuff. So anytime somebody wants to change their results, they have to change their actions. But the challenge is many people never ask themselves the most important question, which is, how do I need to change my mindset and my way of thinking? Then allow that change in mindset to bleed into my activities. Then it will produce the results. What most people do is they just decide what they want. I want to make 10 times more money this year. And then they start trying to figure out, what do I need to do in order to make that happen? The challenge is there's only so much doing you can do. And you can only make so much progress incrementally by changing your doing. You have to change your mindset. When you change your mindset, apply different actions or the same actions, you can produce a lot more results even with less effort. So that's the challenge for many people. And the reason many people never do that, even though I made it sound very simple, is because human beings are creatures of habit, and it's very hard to break habits, even when you realize that the habit that you have is not serving you. People will still keep doing it because it's much easier to stick to a habit that you know leads to mediocrity than to break that habit and do something brand new that you're not sure what is going to lead to. And many human beings, I talk to people every day, text messages, emails, DMs, comments, Zoom calls. I talk to a lot of people every day, and most of them are just stuck in their own patterns of habitual activity. Even when they're telling me directly that this does not work for them, it is not helping them, they still find a way to convince themselves that I'm going to just keep trying the same thing. And there's only so much I can say. And this leads to, going back to a question you asked me earlier, why focus on the top 2%? Because see, top 2% people don't do that. And it can become very frustrating when you're talking to these people and you're trying to show them, like, do you hear what you're saying? That you're not getting the outcome that you want, but you're telling me you're going to keep trying to do the same thing. You're going to keep trying it on your own. All right, trying it on your own. You're 35. All right, you got 35 years of trying it on your own. So you're just going to keep doing it. So at some point you're like, all right, let me just stop trying to convince these people of something that they don't want to be convinced of. Let me go talk to the people who are already converted. So what we were talking to before we got on the call, preaching to the choir, as they say. Right. So I want to preach to the choir, not to the heathen standing across the street. I want to preach to the choir who came into the church.
But the heathens need our help, man. They need you, Dre.
That's right. But I ain't Jesus. It's not my job to save everybody. I want to save the people who want to be saved.
Yeah, this mindset, I don't remember. So I'm 44 right now here in 2023. I don't remember in my 20s and 30s the term mindset being even said.
No, it's new.
But it was there. But it was a thing. We didn't make this new thing up. We just started talking about it. What is it about this world we're in now, about maybe the book The Secret written, and manifestation and mindset and controlling outcomes, and discipline was there. I remember that word discipline. I didn't perform at a high athletic level, you did, but I played high school sports, and coming up, I was an athletic kid. I heard that discipline thing come from coaches a lot, but it didn't go deeper. And now we're realizing it's like, oh, are we like listening to Socrates and Plato now? Are we like reading them more? Like, what's happening here? Are we going to the Greek philosophers and there's people writing books about the subconscious? Why are we talking about all these things now, do you think?
Great question. There's a lot of answers to that. So what sport did you play?
Man, I played a lot of stuff. I was a fast little kid, man. I could run probably like a 4.5, a 4.4, or a 4.5 as like a 15-year-old kid. I was the second fastest kid on my football team, so I could play football back. Like, if you called me, you'd kick my ass playing basketball. But I'd be competitive enough. I could pass the ball. I played on teams, so I played everything.
How tall were you?
5'9", 5'10".
Yeah, I'll kill you in basketball. You're too short. So
Hey, but I'll pass the ball, man. I use my skills. I will find the guy.
Yeah, I got you. So the whole thing I was asking because you play team sports, right? So in team sports, we learn a lot of discipline because, team sports, especially for males, I can't speak from the female perspective, but team sports for males is really about teaching life skills. And it's men teaching men how to be men. That's really what it's about, especially at the high school level, because most high school athletes don't play college or pro sports. but we learn discipline, you learn showing up, you learn following through, you learn teamwork, you learn dealing with different types of people. All of those things happen when you play a team sport, especially a big team like football. Football has 4 times more people than a basketball team, but is a similar concept. So going to the discipline part that you mentioned there. But to answer your bigger question here about mindset, that became a thing probably around, it was a video that I was watching. I can't remember the title of the video, but it was all about marketing. It was about the evolution of marketing. How back in the 1930s, how they started marketing, and they realized that by putting things in newspapers and then eventually TV and magazines, if you advertise something that made it look cool, then people would want it. And this is how they were able to advertise cigarettes for decades. And people were killing themselves smoking cigarettes, even though cigarettes weren't good for you, but they were making it look cool. And now you barely see cigarette advertising anymore, even though people still buy them. So it was about what was being marketed. So things just shifted over time. And there became a time, this was in the late 80s going into the early 90s. This is when the focus on self became a thing. So to answer your question, this is where mindset came from. This focus on self. So we always had Napoleon Hill back in the day. Zig Ziglar was around, Earl Nightingale. Then Jim Rohn was a little bit later. And then Jim birthed Tony Robbins.
Les Brown's in there a little bit.
Yeah, Les Brown is in there as well. And Tony Robbins was kind of the guy who, his emergence, I'll give more credit to Tony just because he became so widespread. His emergence made this a thing to where people started looking at, okay, I can look in the mirror and I can actually start intentionally thinking differently about how I look at myself, and that can change my life and make me better. And that was marketed heavily. It was marketed. Tony Robbins first came out through infomercials. So remember, infomercials are still a thing, but now a lot of them are online, and everything is so splintered. But that's how he first started to get known, was through infomercials on TV. And Tony's a hell of a salesperson. And it got a lot of people thinking, oh, I can actually unleash the power within by changing the way that I think about myself. And that's where the whole mindset focus started to become a thing, because it seems like something that you can do from the comfort of your own home, which you can literally. But the challenge is you can't see or touch your mindset. So it's hard to see, is this actually making a difference, as opposed to, let's say, going to the gym and lifting weights. You can see the results from that. You can't see the results from mindset. So this focus on self started to become a thing like late 80s, early 90s. And then from Tony, you got a whole bunch of other people. And nowadays, damn near everybody talks about it. So that's where the mindset thing really came from. And it's still valuable. It's extremely valuable. It's probably the most important thing. As I said, in our world, I stress this is the most important thing, is the mindset, the way that you think about things, not what you do, not your resources, not your skill set, not your talents, not who's helping you. It is the way that you think about things. When that changes, then your behaviors are open to being changed. Then you can get different results. The challenge with it is you cannot see or touch your mindset. So it's very hard for people to grasp this, as opposed to if I was to come out and say, hey, I'll help you make $10,000 a month. We can count it. All right. That's much more easy to quantify. It's easier to sell it to people than it is to sell them on the mindset.